I am primarily a Canon shooter, but after buying and testing many of the fast and wide astro lenses from my Canon body, I was left hoping for something better. The best I've found, Tamron 15-30F/2.8, is a relatively good astro lens with low coma and wide FOV, but I really wanted something faster. When I saw the initial astro reviews for the Sony 24mm F1.4, I knew I had to give it a whirl, so I picked up a A7i and this lens and have been using it for several months now. Bottom line is that I'm very impressed. The star distortion is very low. I had tested the Sigma R20mm F1.4 and found it unusable, but this Sony is so much better. At F1.4 the far corners have a little bit of coma which you can notice at 100% magnification, but by F/2.0 this is essentially gone. I also like the sharpness, and feel the size and weight are outstanding for the image quality this lens delivers. I still prefer my Canon for daytime use, love the optical viewfinder, but for wide-angle night work, the Sony A7 Plus 24mm F1.4 is my preferred setup. Had this for a while and love the photos coming out of this beauty. Literally the best lens for portraits and landscape. Great lens. Photos on a recent trip to Florida. Perfect lens for street scenes night or day. Colors and focus sharp. Wish all the GM Sony lens were as affordable as this one. Most important focal length is 24, so any system needs a good 24 one. For I would love to see a 1, 2 or 0, 95 one day. A boy can dreamy have use about 2, 0 to get all of my 60MP from A7 or 4. I don't understand how to set up the button, it seems useless. Also the camera overrides the aperture, which I hate. Let me start off by saying, if you are into street, landscape or portrait and you can only afford one lens with a Sony E-mount system, this is it right here. The lens has fast autofocus, it is sharp and it feels so good because of the weight and size, however I personally regret buying it. For the same price I could have got the Sigma 14-24mm F/2.8, it would have given me that extra range for architecture and real estate, but since I have it, it is a lens that stays mounted in my camera. If you're on the fence about this lens, just buy it. It's fantastic, and has turned me from a 35mm lover to a big fan of 24mm. This is my go-to lens for astrophotography and landscape. I just used it for wedding portraits yesterday and love it too. It's sharp across the entire frame, even at F/1.4, and has no coma at all. I've pixel peeped all the way across the frame on my astrophotography shots and they have been wonderful. Great lens for landscape, street, etc. I am a noob to the photography realm, but knew I had to have this lens based on all the reviews on YouTube. I'm currently on an aps-c, Sony a6300, but intend on buying a full frame, waiting on A7i or A7 IV Lowell, and on day one have taken some solid and sharp. Great lens, only thing is it has no stabilization in the lens. But other than that it's a great buy, you won't be disappointed. I got this lens in attempt to essentially replace my 35mm 1.4 and 14mm 2.8. Technically, I cannot fault the lens, but I have found that the 24mm focal length is trickier to use than I initially anticipated. If you're coming from a 24-70, I'd definitely check my photo catalog to see how many photos you shoot that wide, or rent this lens to give you an idea. As for actual image quality, it's great. No issues with this. The lens is as sharp and distortion free as anyone really needs. Corners are sharp, even wide open, and the lens can focus relatively close to. The hermit crab and Starbucks cup show close focus and bokeh. This review is more as a buyer's guide help. You can see/watch/read all the reviews in the world telling you how technically good it is, but what matters is if it's a good lens for you. I would recommend this lens to night photographers, see everyone else's Milky Way shots, people who love wide angle, people who shoot in low light, vloggers, The 28F/2 is probably good enough for you, people who are used to 35mm lenses. I have struggled with composition, especially in portrait situations, and probably portrait photographers. There is a little corner distortion you have to watch out for that is inherent in lenses this wide and wider. I love my 55mm prime, but this might actually be better. It just feels right. Focusing distance is minimal, the lens itself is tack sharp, and the bokeh on 1.4 really shines. I prefer it over the 16-35, also a great lens, even though the 16-35 is more versatile and has a wider focal length. I simply fell in love with this lens. Great image quality, beautiful rendering, 3D pop, smooth gradations, distortion acceptably corrected, close-up range highly appreciated, very organic in feel. My preferred lens for my Sony a7i was the 55mm F1.4 Sony/Zeiss, which I still love. But now, this 24GM is finding itself more attached to the camera than the 55mm. Highly recommended. Only drawback is its size, knowing this is a mirrorless lens design. The images are straight out of the camera. No touch-ups of any kind. I was looking for a small prime for landscape and walking around. I have avoided the GM zooms for cost and weight, but this is a great balance of features, and will make a nice 35mm lens on the A7000 if they ever release it. Update: I took this out for a first trip with a 16-35 as well, and found that except for some very wide shots 24mm was just right for most of the landscapes I was shooting. Even more impressed with this lens after more use. Being forced to set aperture manually takes a little getting used to, and does get changed accidentally once in a while, but easy to get used to and works well. My first lens and I am blown away. Had my first astrophotography night last night and was blown away at what it could do. Had light pollution all around me in the distance and still was able to get awesome stars. Looking forward to more amazing shoots. For a long time I was agonizing over which lens I wanted to buy for the wider end. I was debating between spending the money on the FA16-35 f/2 GM or the f/4 Zeiss lens. All this time, however, the 24mm GM was in the back of my mind, and I couldn't stop thinking about how sexy a lens it. Getting a 16-35 would be the safe choice. I needed it because every YouTube talking head was drilling it into my head that I should get it. You need a holy trinity. Well, I have the Temi 28-74 f/2, 8 and the 100-400 GM as well, so I was never going to have a proper holy trinity of lenses anyway, so I decided YOLO and ordered the 24mm f/1.4 GM instead. Click link in description for more reviews.